Hello and thanks for joining me, Almost Immortal, as I play all the mods 9 to the sky. Today we're going to focus on trying to close off these two here, for ForceCraft and Occultism. We're going to work our way up to the Heat Core in ForceCraft and the Empty Soul Gem in Occultism, and we'll try and get 18 of each. Starting off with ForceCraft, we're going to need to make a almost broken Force Rod, and we're going to have to make an Infuser. And we'll also need the upgrade tome so that we can upgrade the Force Infuser. The way you upgrade the Force Infuser is by using it to create different Force items. As you can see here in each tier, there's new ones. And we're going to be working our way up to this here, the Heat Core. I don't need much space to be able to do ForceCraft, so I'm going to pop everything over here just in this corner on the middle platform. To start with, we want one of these. A Force Rod. Now we can either get a broken one or we can get a full durability one. But to get the full durability one, we're going to need a Force Stick, which means we're going to need a Force Sapling. To do that, we need the Force Rod. And then you just pop a sapling in the crafting grid with a Force Rod. And that gives you a Force Sapling. Nice and easy. I'll just pop the sapling down as we do with all the others. Let that grow. And then we'll get ourselves some Force Logs and Force Planks. Force Logs into planks, and then the Force Planks, you pop in a diagonal pattern like that, and that gives you Force Sticks. So now, we can make a full durability Force Rod. Nice and easy. Next, we need the Force Infuser, so we're going to need to use that Force Rod with a enchanting table. Just like that. And then to upgrade this, we're going to need to use the Force Rod on a book to get the upgrade tome. There we go. That's most of the starting items. So we just pop this here. And then we just pop the book up here, the upgrade tome. And then we need to pop some Force Gems in there, which will charge it up. And then we can start putting items in here to infuse, which will level it up. I've made a few items so that we can upgrade to the next tier. But to do that, we first need a claw, which we get from the Force Infuser quest. You could get more by making a bat in the summoning altar and then popping it in the Drigme farm so you can passively generate the claws. But I don't think I'm going to use many more than the one that needed for this quest. So I'll just leave it there with that. The other item is a Force Nugget to be used on a sword or an axe. But they have to be a Force Sword or Force Axe. You also have to give it power. I've done a couple of infusions. The first two that I've just mentioned, and I need another 46 points to get to the next tier. So we'll do another couple. As you can see, I've got knockback 1 and sharpness 1 there. If we do the axe with the nugget, you click start infusion, that'll give us knockback 1. And as you can see there, my force points have gone up. Let's try another. There we go. So now, we've made it to tier 1. There are 3 more infusions on this tier to be able to do, which will let us upgrade it, but we'll also need to get another 96 points to be able to upgrade it. One thing we can do is add a Force Sword to the Force Infuser and give it 2 nuggets, and then we end up with knockback 2. But because we've already used the Force Nugget to infuse before, it won't cross out the 0 out of 3, because it needs new items. And that's these. So one for this round will be Golden Power Source, which we get by smelting a Force Log. And we'll also need to use a Force Log on a Force Axe, which will basically make it a tree cutter. It will cut everything above or below the log you cut down. And then we need to use Sugar, and we can either use it on different armor to give a speed boost, or on tools, it can give us efficiency. The Golden Power Source will give our items either fire aspect or heat. So first we will smelt some Force Logs, which gets us the Golden Power Source. And then I've gone ahead and made some boots, some swords, and some axes, just so that I can get my upgrade started. First we'll do the Golden Power Source on a Force Axe. Then we'll do a Force Log on a Force Axe. That's given us a Lumberjack. And then it's Sugar and Force Boots, which is giving us speed 1. So that's speed 1, Fire Aspect 1, and the Lumberjack. Now at tier 2, we've unlocked 9 more. First, before we move on, we need a Force Pack, which is this here. And then our first infusion is going to be the Force Pack Upgrade. This can be used to increase the capacity of our Force Pack. Just pop that in there with it. And that'll be our first one. There we go, 1 out of 9. Next, we want to get these. They're upgrade cores, which we're going to turn eventually into the heat core that we need. To make it, we're going to need some bottler enchanting. Now, when we made the mob farm, we made this, an XP drain singularity. So all we need to do, just take some from in here. All you do is you pop the bottler enchanting in there with a book, and that will make an experience tome. Before we can make the upgrade core, we need to right click on the experience tome to give it some experience. I think that should be plenty. And then you just pop it in a crafting table with the force rod. There we go. To make the other cores from an upgrade core, we need 4 different items. The first one is flint. The second one is a snow cookie, which we make using a snowball. The third is another bottle of enchanting. And the last one is some sugar. Once you have those items, you pop the upgrade cores in the middle. And then let's start with the snow cookie. Add it to the outside. Start the infusion. And we have a freezing core. Same again with flint. That's a grinding core. Then sugar. And there's our speed core. And then bottle of enchanting. And that's an experience core. That's 6 out of 9 infusions. Another infusion is adding blue dye to force shears. That'll give you rainbow, where when you shear a sheep, it will give you rainbow wool. So you can get different types of wool from any sheep. The next one requires a fortune cookie, which is just a wheat and cocoa beans to get cookies. And then you put that with paper in a crafting table. And then if you pop that in the infuser with an axe, a force axe, you will get fortune. The snow cookie can also be used on a force bow to give it freezing. And that upgrades us to tier 3. Now we need a tier 4 force infuser before we can get the heat core. So we're going to have to upgrade one more time. This is a nice and easy one. We just upgrade our backpack once more. We need to get a cobweb to get silk touch. We need an arrow to be able to get the bleeding effect. And then we also need a potion of invisibility to infuse with camouflage. To make the invisibility potion, I just set up an auto-craft as I did in a previous episode with my 2 brewing stands. So now I can craft that as and when I need. Let's give this a try. So potion of invisibility with some force boots gives us camo. Force pack upgrade with the force pack. We've got 16 slots currently. Now it's 24. An arrow with a sword gives bleeding. And then a cobweb with a force pickaxe should give us silk touch. There we go. And we're at tier 4. Now we're at the tier we need to be able to make the heat core. We need 18 of those. So all we do is pop in the upgrade core. And I'll make these. Nice and easy. Now since we've already done one, I'm just going to upgrade this again. So there's the force pack and the upgrade. That knocks it to 32 slots. And then a spider eye and a sword gets me Bane. And that's tier 5. Now if we use a gas tier on a force rod, we will get healing for tier 5. And with a feather on a force sword, that will give it a dashing effect called wing. And then yet again, we can upgrade our backpack to have more slots. And that puts us to tier 6. Tier 6 allows us to get a time torch. This is something that increases the production of certain things. Like, I believe, some machines, like the furnace, And I wonder if it would work on the phytogenic insulator. We can always find out. But it also works on the farm. So our essence production can go a lot faster. All we need to do that is a force torch. So you pop a force torch and a clock in the infuser. It's a little bit slower than the others. And then that gives us a time torch. I'll make a few of these just so that I can use them later on. Let's see if it works with the infuser. You just pop it next to something like that. And it does, look at that. And depending on the number of the torches you've got around it, you can also increase the speed further. Look at that. That's just with like 3 behind it. There we go. That's ForceCraft. We needed the heat core for the Philosopher's Fuel, but we also need a few other things that we don't have yet. So we can't make that quite yet. The next thing is Occultism, so that we can get an empty soul gem. Occultism's quite a bit more involved than ForceCraft, so I'm going to be spending a bit more time on this. I'm going to start Occultism over here where we did blood magic last time, since I've removed that now, since we don't need it. Looking at the Occultism quests, we need to start with the Little Book of Demons, then we get some demon fruit, and then we set that demon fruit on fire to get Spiritfire. The Little Book of Demons is actually the Dictionary of Spirits, and it's the book just for Occultism. There we are, it's just any book, and the Demon's Dream seeds. To get Demon's Dream fruit, we need to plant Demon's Dream seeds. I've already got one here, probably got it from a quest at some point, but I am going to plant some more. So when you plant the seeds, it's got a few to grow. They grow to look like this. There we go. And then if we throw one on the floor and set it on fire, we get Spiritfire, just like that. Spiritfire is just something we can use to throw things into, and it will give us occultism items. Items we can throw in are andesite, like this, which gets us other stone, diamond, which gets us a spirit-attuned gem, and an oak sapling, which gets us this here. It's a occultism oak sapling. What happens with these oak saplings is when you plant them, they grow just like any other tree, and they look just the same. And as long as we're under the effect of Demon's Dream fruit, they turn into Otherworld wood. Next, we're going to do our first ritual under Occultism. This ritual is going to be to summon a Foliate Crusher. And we need to do this first before we can move on to the later steps up here, which is where we're going to get the empty soul gem. So first of all, we need a Book of Binding Foliate. We need Purified Ink, which we need to throw black dye into the Spiritfire to get. We also need some chalk. First, we need the impure white chalk, which is easy enough to make. And then we'll throw that in the Spiritfire and it'll make white chalk. It also recommends getting a chalk brush, which you can use to get rid of any of the rituals that you've put on the ground. We'll also need some candles. Luckily, we've done bees already, so we should be able to use the wax from that to get candles. And we'll also need this Spirit-Attuned Crystal, which is just 4 of those Spirit-Attuned gems. And then finally, to put it together, we also need sacrificial bowls and a golden sacrificial bowl. A couple of other items we can pop in the Spiritfire we'll need is a book like this. Just throw them all in there. And that gets us taboo books and also feathers, which get us awakened feathers. To make the impure white chalk, we need burnt otherstone, which you just pop otherstone in a furnace to get. But we also need otherworld ashes, and that is otherworld wood thrown into the Spiritfire. Just throw a stack in there. There we go. That's the impure white chalk. And then we'll throw that in there to get the white chalk. Candles. A few of those spirit-attuned crystals. I think we need 4 sacrificial bowls. But then we also need a 5th to turn into the golden sacrificial bowl. Now let's take a look at the ritual we want to do. So if I just come in here on the book, and then I click back, all unlocked entries as red, it'll open up this. Pentacles. And we want this one. AVR's circle. Click that. And then we'll pop it just here. We need the chalk for these bits, just to line it. And if you happen to place one in the wrong place, you can just use the chalk brush and it'll get rid. And then we pop down the candles where they say they go. And then we pop the bowls in these four corners here. And then the golden bowl goes there. Now we need some raw gold, raw silver, raw copper, and raw iron. Luckily, I've still got my little flux hammer and sieve set up, so I've got those just in here. And then we just need to put one of each, gold, silver, iron, and copper, and then the book in the middle. There we go, started summoning Foliate Ore Crusher. This thing will just crush any ore you throw at it. Takes a while for this ritual to finish, but we'll just wait. And there we are, that's our very first ritual. As I say, you can just throw the ore at it like this, and it begins to crush it. Next, we want 2 more different chalks. One of them's the impure gold chalk, and one of them's the impure purple chalk. Now that we've got the Crusher Demon, we can make the impure purple chalk by asking it to crush some endstone. And finally, now that we've got these chalks, I can also throw them in here to remove their impurities. Now before we move on, I'm going to get rid of this other ritual because I probably won't use it. And we can recover the bowls because I think we need 8 for the next one. And we can also reuse the candles. Now we're almost ready for the empty soul gem. We just need one more ritual to prepare. That's this one. Strigior's Higher Binding. We'll just have a look in the book for it. And it's this one. Strigior's Higher Binding. And let's put this just here. So the bits that are purple, we need to use the purple chalk on. The yellow, obviously, are the yellow ones. And then the white chalk for the white ones. Then we pop candles where they need to be. And then finally, it's the spirit-attuned crystals. And then we add 8 of these sacrificial bowls. And then right in the center, the golden sacrificial bowl. Then we just need the ritual ingredients. These are going to be 1 diamond, 1 silver, 1 gold, 1 iron, 4 soul sand, and then in the center, a Book of Binding Ginny bound. Now that I've got all those, let's see if it works. So it'll be gold, silver, diamond, copper, 4 soul sand. Then we just pop the book in the middle. There we go, started binding. We need to perform this ritual 18 times to get the empty soul gems that we need. There we go. And when it's done, it'll throw out that gem. And that's our first one. So now we need 17 more. Which means I also need to make 17 more of the Book of Bindings that we need. And as you can see, we've now got 18 empty soul gems. We also got another 3 from the quests. I don't know why they're separate, but hey ho. That was actually quite easy. And while I was waiting for everything to finish, I also set an autocraft for the advanced generators stuff, which is very easy to make. We made Signalum a while ago, and we've got the seeds, so we've got millions of those in our network at the moment, and same for Electrum. So I've just set those to autocraft, and I've popped those in the network already. And same again I've done for the nitro battery, because we've already done all of the power stuff for the reactor, the power reactor, and it was just a matter of adding this to be made. Finally, the player transmitter is much the same, except to start the craft, we need a player aerial pearl. To get those, we need these aerial pearls, and we need to give them to zombies. So what I'm going to do is set up a spawner here, put a zombie egg in it. It's one of the spawners we used before with ignore players, ignore conditions, and no AI, but I'm going to reduce the spawn delay and the max spawn delay so that we can get it moving fast. There we are. So now I just need some of these to spawn, and I'll give them aerial pearls like that, and we get player aerial pearls. We need the player transmitter for the Nexium emitter. So we're going to need 18 of them, which means we're going to need 18 of these player aerial pearls. But now I should be able to get the 18 player transmitters. And that was nice and fast. So the star quests are coming along quite nicely. I think the mystical agriculture stuff I'm going to do between episodes, because it's going to mean creating the Awakened Supremium Furnace and an Insanium Coal Block, as well as the final seed, which is the Dragon Egg Seed. Nothing really needs to happen there. It's just a matter of me grinding away the dragon until I've got enough for 18 of them, and then making 18 of each of the others. Next time, I think I'll focus on Project E and see if we can go all the way up to dark matter and red matter and see if we can get everything together for the Philosopher's Fuel. I think that is a good place to leave things. We've gone through all of Occultism and all of ForceCraft. We've got everything we need to be able to cross off the star quest for those. And we've prepared ourselves ready for getting the star. If you've made it this far, I really do appreciate it. Hope to see you next time.